Hello, everyone. I'm Ronan Unchained, and welcome back to Bottles and Bricks, a Last of Us podcast. Um, we got some out of the blue updates for Last of Us season three, and stuff that might concern the future of Naughty Dog, and more. So, I have my co-host Samuel Leggett. Sam, how you doing? How was Happy Fourth or belated Fourth of July?
Yeah, Fourth of July was actually pretty dope. I actually got 8 hours of sleep, which is not regular for me. So I am bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, if you would call it that. But yeah, let's
Yeah, I
talk
get
about it.
that. Yeah. Um, yeah, this Man, this I wasn't expecting to talk Last of Us related until Last of Us Day, if you will, until September. Um, then this dropped, and well, we're gonna do this, folks. We're gonna talk about first Neo's announcement or what was put up by Naughty Dog, and then we'll go to the next one that really was like fascinating to me. So, for those who don't know, on Wednesday, Neil Druckmann, who's the head of the studio of Naughty Dog, and I think creative director as well. He Naughty Dog had put out a statement of his saying that to our Naughty Dog community, we wanted to let you know that the studio head Neil Druckmann delivered the following message to our team this morning. I've made the difficult decision to step away from my creative involvement in The Last of Us HBO. With work completed on season two and before any meaningful work starts on season three, now is the right time for me to transition my complete focus to Naughty Dog and its future projects, including writing and directing our exciting new game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, along with my responsibilities as studio head and head of creative. Co creating the show has been a career highlight. It's been an honor to work alongside Craig Mason to executive produce, direct, and write on the last two seasons. I'm deeply thankful for the thoughtful approach and dedication the talented cast and crew took to adapting The Last of Us Part 1 and the continued adaptation of The Last of Us Part 2. So I I was just shocked. I was just like, what the hell is wait, what? Okay, cool. How did you feel when you first heard of this statement?
Um, at first, honestly, I kind of went into being proactive with my thoughts.
Mm,
Um, I honestly didn't like freak out. It was more so trying to figure out what is the play, right? Because truth be told, he could have said, I'm stepping away as the director, or I'm stepping away as executive producer and director, but I'm still going to be contributing to the writing efforts until the end of the third season,
mm,
right? Because none of those were in the verbiage at all. That leads me to believe two things. One, HBO wants, maybe needs, for The Last of Us to go past three seasons. I know from a narrative standpoint, I don't know how they would even try to finish the second game on the third season. I think that realistically, it's going to have to be a fourth season. It's going to be with it. So I think that at the end of the day, Warner Brothers and what they want, I don't think it necessarily is not that it doesn't align with what Neil wants, but I think that the scope is going to make sure it's going to be a lot bigger. And they only have so much narrative to tell. So the second thing my head went is he needs to write. And the only thing that he can write on or write towards would be another game. So that's and I know I'm getting ahead of it, but that's where my mind started shifting to because I was
yeah.
like, something doesn't add up here because he could easily have just said, I'm not directing any more of the episodes, or, I'm no longer going to be executive producer, but I'm contribute to the writing efforts. And me and what's the other girl that helped write the game? What's
Halley
her?
Gross.
Because she walked away too, right?
And I was about to say that, yeah, that was just the first thing I was just like, whoa, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big decision. And in a way, I was just like, okay, you know what? Um, I love the first season. I like season two, although we all had some nitpicks and some some critiques, if you will. And
Y'all had
oh
critiques.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
love the sugar.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I
But
digress. Go ahead.
but to me, the one thing that was like, wait a minute, this felt a little funky. Was that like a few hours after that first drop happened, or maybe a few minutes? Then Halley Gross, who's the co-writer of Part Two and also wrote the last few episodes of Season Two, put out her own statement saying, "With great care and consideration, I've decided to take a step back from my day-to-day work on HBO's The Last of Us to make space for what comes next. I'm so appreciative of how special this experience has been.
Mhm.
Working alongside Neil, Craig, HBO, and the remarkable cast and crew has been a life-changing. The stories we told above love, loss, and what it means to be human in a terrifying world are exactly why I love this franchise. I have some truly rad projects ahead that I can't wait to share, but for now, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who brought Ellie and Joel's world to life with such care." That was just first like, damn, this was damn. I kept saying that damn, and I'm like, wait a minute. And again, as far as I know, there's always been a good vibe between all of them. There's never been this any sense of malice, none of that. So I don't. A lot of people were like pressing the panic button. I'm like, I'm not there yet. I'm not gonna do that. But from a gaming perspective, as a gaming fan, I feel like okay, well, this is the unsilent go ahead. That like, all right, we're going forward with this. That like, all right, Craig knows what he's doing. He's mapping out the rest, and then we got to catch up
Mhm.
because we
Mhm.
probably don't want HBO waiting that too long to
Yep.
adapt if we go forward with part three, the third chapter of this saga.
Yep. Yep. I completely agree with you. The reason why I say that is because when I saw hers, like to make space for what comes next, to make sure I handle responsibilities. Like, what are you talking about? Intergalactic, we know, y'all's involvement. It's not in question here. It's of course it's gonna be still in production. But one of the things that, and I think I brought it up in one of our discussions a while back, is that this is unprecedented, right? It's hard enough adapting something that's already been completed, to full screen or to a show, but it's a whole other beast producing, directing, and making a whole other game, maybe two games at the same time. It's nearly impossible. No one can do that and do it justice. It's
Yeah.
not possible. And I think that a lot of us collectively know that Neil's directed episode may be one of the best of the year, and it's kind of like, imagine if he did commit to start directing episodes of season 3 or season 4, if it got greenlit. That third game will never be made. It's not going to happen, let alone how they're going to navigate the intergalactic game, which we don't know how big that actually is going to be. But one of the things that he said in every single press interview, it's like, yeah, I don't know about The Last of Us 3, but intergalactic. He just kept pivoting and saying it. And I think that, unfortunately, there's two things that's got to happen, and I hate to do it like this. At some point this year, they better announce The Last of Us 3. And the reason why I say that is, if they don't, the public perception is going to be, why am I going to look at a third season with a character that nobody cares about, that everybody that's been a gamer has been crapping on? And the main person that created this show, that wrote this show, regardless of how divisive it is no longer a part of it. F this show. Yeah. Like, if they don't do something soon and stating that the reason why he's going away is for this, it's going to be a ripple effect. The whole third or fourth season or whatever will be left into ashes. My prayer is that come September or even December, that Neil says, look, guys, the third season is still coming. Don't worry. Craig's got it. But what I got to build is the foundation of what's next. And that's what I want you guys to know. Because if he doesn't do that, all of this goes crashing down. I mean that. Like, no matter how much I love it, no matter how much faith I have in it, if they still say, next year sometimes, hey, Last of Us 3 is coming, it's going to be a latent dollar short, because the gaming community and the general fans of the show are going to give up on the idea of it, because they're going to feel like, oh, we've seen this before with The Last Airbender. Oh, we've seen this before. Look at One Piece on Netflix. They just lost their creator. Like, I don't know where that's going to go. And I think this just will be another downward spiral if he and she or them don't say something on the lines of the reason why we're leaving is because The Last of Us 3, we need to make more. It makes sense to me, but the collective hive mind is not going to buy it. They're not.
Yeah, and people were like, oh my gosh, but Neo, that's it. Oh my God, we can't trust Craig on his own. I'm like, I tell people, this is the guy who created Chernobyl. And that's what helped me with him before the show came out. I was like, why would I trust him? I'm like, oh, he did Chernobyl. Okay, I could trust him with that. Um, Now, having said that, I hope that like they take some of the I think valid critiques, nitpicks and whatnot. They're like, okay, don't be afraid to lean into what part two's grit is, and it's on HBO. And I think, yeah, to me, they said it from the get go. We're not gonna try to do the Game of Thrones thing where we catch up and it's like, we're out of material. We start doing things willy nilly on that. And I was like, no, we're not gonna do that. And I feel that um, I really I kind of think this should have been almost an in-house announcement because it says to the Naughty Dog crew, so you kind of didn't really need to put this out in the open until maybe later down the line. Hell, I probably would have waited till Last of Us Day to do this announcement, but to be like, all right, we're stepping away from the show, but and then you put dot 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 and you tell somebody, well, maybe this means we're something's brewing with part three. Before we go any further, I want to read some of the comments we have because some people have already tuned in, and thank you so much for anybody who's tuned in who's watching this right now. But Teague O'Neill, hello Teague O'Neill, says, "Oh, you mean that Neo and Firecracker Halley left the show? Jesus, because of Naughty Dog game development and studio responsibilities? How could they?" Just messing with you guys. I am looking forward to the adventures of Nora in space, though, with the Heretic Prophet game. Nice. But yeah, I understand. There you go. I know what you did there. As for how part B, part two of The Last of Us will look, I'm not concerned as we still have Craig Mason steering the ship. I get that valid. Draven, hey Draven, what's up, man? Jaren says you don't need the creator of the show. They already have the script. They know how this ends. The Walking Dead didn't need a creator. They just did fine. Sure, I just think it's more a sophisticated scenario where this show is that beloved, and for the most part, I think for a lot of the part, having both the creator and the biggest potentially fan in Hollywood working right now, teaming up and delivering on it, I think that helped a lot. But I think that after two seasons, Craig knows the knows where the landmines are and where not to go and where to go. And just because I think Neo is stepping away completely from the show, I don't think that means he's not going to get any updates or calls or just photos here and there. I just think that now his daily things, he will be the gaming side. And then maybe once a week or once a month, he'll get an update on stuff. Like, oh, look at this. Oh, cool. But yeah, I feel that because it said Naughty Dog presents, I truly do feel that this should have been more of an in-house thing for Naughty Dog workers to be like, listen, I know I've been away, but I'm still part of Naughty Dog. Gaming is my big number one desire to do. We're gonna go forward with that stuff. And I know Neil has said that while he was working on the show, that he has a co-writer for the game, and they've been running the show while he's been away. And so maybe this is for him coming back to be like, all right, I gotta control it and make sure we're going in the right direction. And Craig has already been trained. He probably knows what to do and what not to do. And instead of being there on a day-to-day basis, he probably will get phone calls or be on a video chat every month or so instead of every week or every day. And yeah, listen. My only concern, this is what's weird because we're the Last of Us fans. If they announce part 3 during Last of Us Day to counterbalance a lot of the reception out of this announcement, and if they potentially drop a teaser, because if for anybody who has seen the Grounded 2 documentary, Neil shot that first teaser for part 2 way before Uncharted 4 started going all hands on deck.
Mm-hmm.
So he's had that in the can for a long time. My only worry is that if they do that, they might take some of the hoopla around Intergalactic, because once that game comes out, and if they by then they already have announced part 3, most of the questions and stuff will be like, "What about part 3? Where we're at with part 3?" And I doubt some of the press will lean into that. But then again, we are living in this society, so I don't know how much of that might take away from Intergalactic, because I want that to stand on its own, and yet we need. It's been 5 years since that game dropped. It's been shoot, what, 2 3 years since the show started. It's just that we need an update of that, just to know that, like, all right, the end is near. Be ready for it on the gaming side. And then once that, maybe Craig takes a break from the show a little bit, and then you keep that energy of like it's been gone for so long, and then you drop a teaser and it'll be like, Last of Us HBO shows back for the last chapter of the saga. No 10 seasons, none of that stuff. Just no. By season 4 or potentially 5, we're done. I don't know. What do you think, Sam?
So I'm gonna share something with you. I made
Mm.
it. When did I make it? I made it March sometime. Let me actually get it. March 23rd. So 3 days after my birthday. I'm gonna share it with everybody. This is what my random theory is, and this could be completely wrong. But if you guys are seeing this video, and it happens to work out, then it is what it is. And the reason why my head went this route is because I was like, how are they logistically going to make the second game something that is going to work? I felt like the second game was something that was going to take some time. So this is what I ended up. Well, I'm sorry, the second game adaptation was going to take some time. So this is what I ended up writing out. The Last of Us Season 3, Game 2, continuing the story. Now, this is before I think we had got the green light. I can't remember. I think we had got the green light at a certain point, but I was like, okay, I think it's going to happen. So then I was like, okay, when are they going to start pre-production for season 3? I was like, oh, okay, season 3, it'll probably be like sometime next year before it goes to pre-production with the release of 2027. That's what I initially thought. I can't remember what the official date when they're going to go pre-production, but it's probably going to be the end of this year at the soonest. And then realistically, it'll probably be like a release of end of 2026 or around 2027, which I thought would be crazy. But the reason why I thought that made more logistical sense is because what they could start doing is writing and sculpting the third game. I felt like at the beginning of 2026 that they were going to announce the third game. And then the release date for the third game was going to be closer to like a 2028, 2029 release. And that would actually make more sense. Now, at the time that I wrote this, I didn't know that they had already greenlit a third season. And then I was like, okay, they're going to be making third and fourth seasons that are probably going to be the rest of the remaining of the second game. So if you look at this charting that I have here, then realistically replace that season 4 with the season 5. And then season 5 would be the continuation if they would go and do like a fifth season, which would be around like the third game. So, and I think that this still stands up. I just need to kind of move some stuff around instead of this being the fourth season, be the fifth season. But I do still stand on this is what I think the theory is going to actually be. And I think they're going to have to. It's not even so much like, oh, wow, I think this would be cool. Like once they announced that Neil and her were moving away, this has to happen. And I think it's not just Warner Brothers at stake. This is Naughty Dog at stake too, to me, because a lot of those same people that are people that were complaining about the game when the game came out, then when the show came out and it wasn't being exactly the same as the game, they're complaining then. Once this happened, with some time in 2026, they're gonna be like, yeah, see, the game was already some trash as it was, and the show wasn't any better. This is what's going to happen by the time we get to the third season. So to shut them up, announce a third game. Neil, I'm going to take this thing off so you can see me. Please announce that the third game is currently in writing pre-production, that you're writing on it. You don't even have to say that it's coming out 2027 or it's going to be in production in 2027. Just say you're currently actively writing on the third game. I promise you, what will happen is no matter what people's perception of the second season, the third season, or the fourth season of The Last of Us show, people will hold on to dear life. And the best example of that, unfortunately and fortunately, is what's going on with the Game of Thrones book series. Just let them know that you're still writing. Just let them know that you're going to continue to finish the story that we know that's not finished. I'm just asking you, Neil, and you can take it off my face because it's freaking me out. But I think it's got to happen, Ronan. Like, it's at this point now, like, I can't defend the show. I can't defend it. If somebody like Drill was up here right now, he'd be say, see, like, I told you, like, and I would say, well, just hold on.
Right away.
Until the middle of next year. What his rebuttal would be, but guys, the fans are not gonna hold on. That's a lot to ask the fans. They're not gonna. That's effery. They're not gonna stay here. That's exactly what he would say. He would say that the fans are not gonna hang on for that.
And I have sympathy for the Game of Thrones fans, and I have Jarens here who put out some comments which are very interesting. I think that's like, what good did the Game of Thrones have when the George never finished the books, and Dan and Dave made that mess of a show ending, knowing that is not how George is going to end the story. He put a comment of, I think, spoilers for the books. I'm not going to put it out, but it's a character and they're where they're at in the books. I'm not going to put it out, but this has always been Abby's story. Joe and Ellie were always the villain. Jarens, nope. Hell no. Hell to the mother. No.
Yeah, no. It's unfortunately, to his comment, what I'll say is this. This is a revolving door story to me. I think it started with Sarah, right? First person we see. Then it went and transitioned to Joel and Ellie. Some would say actually just to Ellie. And if you would have said this is now going to be the baby story, like Dina's baby story, then I would maybe agree with you possibly there, because then that falls with the trend. If you're just a purist, then you would say, this is Ellie's story, like come or go, villain, hero. It's going to live with Ellie and it's going to die with Ellie. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I still stand on that. If they make it to the island, it's going to end with her finally being able to actually make a choice, right? She never was given the opportunity to make an actual choice. She's fought for the choice. She's lost somebody over the choice. Yeah. She's had to find retribution of somebody making a choice for her. And then now she's lost everything. Now, are you going to stand on business? What you started with, you said, I'm going to see this through before there was a Joel. Are you going to see it through without a Joel? And I think that is the story that we have to have at this point. I didn't know we were live.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were live.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't say anything stupid.
Jarens says, I like season 2. I'm not a Joel fan. I'm glad he's got his Carmichael will lead part 3 game. Jarens, I respect the comment. I completely disagree. I think, again, it's the nerdiest thing is now is that we've always said that, like, we just need to see an older lady with a pocket knife and a bit off finger just walking on a sunrise, and you see a little white hair or gray hair, and we're like, that's Ellie. She's older now. Oh my gosh. And it's just give her a Ripley or Logan vibe story, and that's it. We're there. Like, give her that one more swan song tale, and I don't know. Maybe there's more stories for Abby. Who knows? Yes, team. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Again, I connected to that character until another element is presented in the story, and I can't talk about it until we get to that to third season potentially, and they even bring that up. But I get it, Jerens. I get it. Um, yeah, so I just did a little bit of math, and I went back and looked at the video that we did. For those who don't know, we had reacted to the Get Grounded 2 documentary. You can go find on my channel, and I put out the reaction for the whole documentary, and then I cut out a separate video for the very last thing that happens in the documentary. That was in February of 2024, and in that one, by the time that documentary came out, the filming of it, they said, timeline wise, is at that moment in the documentary was in 2023, and that's what Neil says that, like, listen, people have been asking about will we do more Last of Us stories and whatnot. He says for a while I didn't know where to go, but he said that recently's changed, and he says I don't have a story, but I have a concept. That was in 2023. We're almost at the end of we're halfway through 2025. So it's been almost 3 years since that was recorded.
Gosh, dog, really?
Yes.
Since Grounded?
Since that scene of him being interviewed was recorded.
Okay. I was like,
no,
man, I'm lost. We went to
Grounded,
a wormhole.
no. Grounded dropped last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, cool.
So I'm wondering now, like timeline wise, they've had to had something niche, something very small, minimal to be like, yeah, we got something where to go with the potential part 3. And yeah, I'm besides that, I'm also curious to see how Naughty Dog is doing, how that studio now has evolved, because they addressed a lot, not everything, but a lot of stuff in that documentary of how their pipeline was working, where they want to improve, where they want to change, and not be fixed on crunch. They don't want to do crunch anymore. And so that's why there's so much time being taken into making these games now, more than ever, I think. So I'm interested to see where the studio is at now.
Do you think that the popularity of the adaptation is also pushing and motivating them to get to the game too? The reason why I asked that question is because I'm reading something that kind of, I think it's AI generated, but it says basically while the third Last of Us game has not been officially announced, the possibility still remains open. And this goes back to what you said. Naughty Dog's co-president, Neil Druckmann, has stated that there's a concept for the third game that he finds exciting. Definitely AI, because he did state that. But also emphasized that there's a need for a story worthy of the series before moving forward. I also think he said that. Now, this is where I remember, I can't remember where they said it, but currently the studio is focusing on a new IP, Intergalactic, the Heroic Prophet, and another unannounced project.
Yeah, he said that. Yeah.
And they still have not said what that is. And kind of going back to what you said about God, I'm spacing on the game, Nathan Drake series, Uncharted.
Oh, Uncharted.
When Uncharted 4 was, releasing out, and then we got the inclination about the second game. Like, I think that he wants to make sure that Intergalactic is as good as it possibly can be, so it doesn't get overshadowed.
Yes.
By a third game. I think that that's what's actually happening, because now, like, hate it or love it, people are still talking about The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that adaptation on live action is just pushing more people to either one, buy the game or be intrigued by the story. And more than it ever was before. Because before it was just the gaming community. Now it's everyone knows what this is.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why I was bringing up that Naughty Dog has more to lose if he doesn't say something. Because it has to be something said.
I understand taking a break from it now, because how much we saw that was a growing prospect to do part 2, let alone the production, but also being hit with COVID right before release. So I understand that they may want to take a break from that world and do something else, which they've earned that right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But they say we could leave it off with that ending, that last shot. I'm like, you can, but I don't think you should, and I don't really want you to.
Yeah.
for better for worse, depending on what happens to do part three, I'm gonna have to live with that decision of me wanting more. Um, yeah, I think that um, there has to come at least one more story to like leave it off and not say satisfy the old fans or fans who didn't like part two. Not I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm saying that like there has to be a fully understanding of perspective because to let Ellie maybe potentially see where Joel was coming from when he made the decision in game one and the first season of the show. Not to say that maybe she might forgive him, maybe she might love him again. Maybe, not saying that, but like the potential of her being in his shoes, figuratively and literally, and being like, now you know what it felt to be in Joel's shoes when he had to make a big decision that he know was probably a bad move or a fatal decision, but one that he lived with and was happy to do, and he said he would do it all over again. So I want to get to that moment where Ellie like finally realizes, okay, this is what it felt like to be where he was in that hospital, looking at me. And yeah, I'm very interested to see how much they go up. Because again, they were gonna do an open world game, sort of, with part two. It was easy, and they were very much inspired by Bloodborne. So how expanded is part three potentially? Part three going to be, or how simple it might be? I've always said bring it back simple.
You know what I just thought about? And maybe we're overthinking this, and maybe it's right in front of our faces. What is Haley Gross's involvement with Intergalactic? Is she co-writing Intergalactic?
As far as I know, no. He brought. As far as I know, Neil brought in another writer to write Intergalactic. I forget the writer's name, but I think she worked on some TV shows and maybe a movie or another game as well.
Okay.
But the thing is, here's the cool thing about Halley Gross, which is why I've always been like, you know what, I want to see more of her because she worked on Nicholas Winding Refn's Too Old to Die Young show for Amazon, which is a fucked up show. It's good, but it's fucked up. She also worked on Cape Crusader, Batman. And she worked on Westworld, so she's done a lot of these cool other stuff outside of The Last of Us.
So hold on with me, just so because I think we might be overthinking this because I think that the answer is right in front of our faces. So look, guys, all of y'all, please hear this. I'm not just talking to Ron, I'm talking to all of y'all. Neil leaves, right? She leaves. Yes, she's worked on Westworld. Yes, she's worked on all those different things. But she and Neil wrote The Last of Us Part 2 game. Okay? She has nothing else on her slate at all. She doesn't have anything as far as the show. She's not working on Intergalactic. Why would her and him leave to do anything else right now? Specifically her. Other than The Last of Us 3, the game. They co-wrote the game for the second one. I mean, I'm looking at it differently because I thought she was maybe working on Intergalactic. I read she's not. So I think the answer is right there that she is probably going to be maybe helping him with Intergalactic, maybe. But more than likely, she is working on The Last of Us 3. I don't see any other thing because I did read, what is it? She's shifting her focus to Naughty Dog, where she will be helping to write and direct the new game, Intergalactic. This is moving coincides with the completion of her work with The Last of Us Season 2 before Season 3. While there's no upcoming shows specifically mention her work on Intergalactic and transition away from The Last of Us, future projects suggest Naughty Dog are likely. I absolutely feel like that's what's happening. Like, I think it's more clear cut than what I realized. I didn't think about her. She has nothing else going on.
She says she has some rad projects, which means that like it's probably more than one thing. Yeah.
Right. Right. What else would it be? Come on.
I don't know, man.
Y'all let us know in the comments. Spam this.
Yeah.
Like, You should take this video, put this on TikTok too, because I want everybody to tell me what else would she be working on outside of Intergalactic. What else would she be really working on? What
Yeah,
else would Warner Brothers, HBO, Naughty Dog like not have made like a bigger statement?
it's a wild card. What if, because HBO is part of Warner Brothers, what if, and again, we're days away from this movie coming out. What if James Gunn and Peter Safran were like, they turn left and they look at the show like, huh, and they're like, Halley, you busy? You comic book fan? Come hang out with us for DC. We'll give you a tour of the studio. We'll tell you what we're working on. What if they got her to write something for DC Studios?
Respectfully, that would be dope. As a fan, as a comic book fan, that would be freaking dope. But when I talk about this and I talk about legacy, it's way too much more at stake with Naughty Dog to make any time for that. I feel like more money would be thrown at her by HBO and by Naughty Dog to write than anything else. I really truly think that they are looking at this holistically. They don't have time to be writing on this show. It's something bigger going on. And I feel like the way that they both phrased it, yeah, nah. I would love that. That'd be freaking dope. I would love for them to write something like, for Batman. I would love them to write something for Batman or hell, The Flash. But nah, I'm not buying that.
And listen, something I saw else people were going as that, like there was this one thing of like, because for a lot of us, to me, my favorite episode of season 2 was the one Neil directed,
right? Same.
And the one that they all three of them wrote. I think that it feels like by now Craig, I've said it already, that like Craig knows probably where not to go and where to go. Now, here's the kicker would be that after season 3, that could also change the whole perspective. It's like that's I feel bad even for more now for him, because like season 3, all right, what do you got on your own? Can you do on your own? And also one thing I brought up before, I think we should wrap things up, is that like I kind of feel a little bad for Kaitlyn Dever, because Bella and Pedro had Neo and Craig there. Yeah. Now Kaitlyn is only going to have Craig there and not even Halley, and so I would have liked her at least giving her some stuff that, granted, she was in the season, but it wasn't a whole bunch. Mm-hmm. So I wish she would have had that daily support from them as well. But that's how the industry works. I mean, there's been stories since the dawn of film and television. So it is what it is. And my final thoughts on it would be that I say let's wait till September. Let's see what happens. Or it's either September or Jesus. I'm forgetting. Let's wait till Last of Us Day. Let's see if there's any potential news and updates to say about that, and where we are with these two creatives going forward. And maybe by then we'll start hearing about these rad projects that she's working on. Maybe by then, Neil, because again, they've said that like that they have to by now. I wish they would have learned that they now have to be a little bit smarter than their audience, because the audience can pick up on stuff. For that first season, people were like, "Wait, is Joel dead? What does that mean?" And they're like, "Okay, we have to be very clever on our marketing and how that's part of the tool of telling a story, and when we choose to say something and when we choose not to say something." Yeah. So I'm here with that. Do you have any final thoughts on this, Sam?
Bring this to life. Like, stop teasing them. We saw this moment. Like, there's nowhere else forward. And when they first announced that they were doing a season 2 and it was going to be adapting the second game, even honestly, to be honest, when they first announced that they were making an adaptation of The Last of Us, I was like, the story is incomplete. How do you do this? It's not a complete story. Like, how many seasons do you realistically have? And then when Neil was on board and he said, we're going to go and follow this to fruition, and when they decided to not make The Last of Us season 2 linear instead of non-linear like the game, I was like, the only way forward is through. And God help them, they're gonna have to do this. Like they put us through this journey. You know,
Mhm.
Ronan's still dealing with the PTSD.
Yes.
I've got full acceptance of grief. Terrell's dealing with his combination of both. Ty is definitely in the same boat as Ronan. Eventually, we have to come back to where we all started, and that is the game. I think that's open shut case. But what I would say, if y'all are kind of not buying anything we've got, I know that Craig has made God, the scary movies. I know he's made the Hangover movies, but he has made Chernobyl. He is very capable, and I don't think that they would leave him astray without putting him in a good position to succeed on a third season, or maybe even a fourth season. But at their core, both of these two are writers, and you need something written to give it what it deserves. So just hold on, ride the wave. We're gonna ride it with you. You're not alone. That's my final sentiments.
And I think there's no better way to end it that way. Folks, thank you so much for hearing our 2 cents on this matter. Again, I don't think it's ready. We should be pushing the panic button just yet. Um, I think by the end of it, it should be an interesting perspective to see where we end up at the end of season 3 of The Last of Us show. And you best believe any coverage of Last of Us related, we'll have it on this channel, on this podcast, on Team GVS's channel. And I think we've been kind of consistent every year for the past few years with Last of Us Day. Like we more or less either have a video or have a stream. So you wanted to tune into that. And again, if randomly on a Thursday evening they drop some big bombs of news, we'll do our best to respond as soon as possible before now and then. And yeah, I'm really hoping they do it. I'm really hoping that like there's an end game to be like, all right, you know what? Hang tight soon. In the not so distant future, we'll have more news for you. And yeah, Sam, thanks for hanging out with me. Please plug yourself. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you guys, you can find me on Team JVS. It is on YouTube, on all of our different social media platforms, Instagram, and of course, even on TikTok now. TikTok, we've got a lot of anime content. So if you love anime and us nerding out about different stuff, or even reactions, we've got reactions on Busy Brown Reactions, as well as also on Ronan Unchained's TikTok as well as his YouTube. But right now, we've got a lot of anime content. We're doing a lot of cover reviews, interviews, and discussions. And we also will be covering San Diego Comic-Con, which Ronan Unchained is going to be helping in a collaborative effort to cover all nerdy things there. Heck, there may be something there, you guys. So stay tuned.
Yeah, a lot of cooking, a lot of moving parts from Team DVS. You don't want to tune into that. And yeah, you can more or less find me at San Diego Comic-Con in the not too distant future. As we're speaking, a lot of moving parts are being made to do that stuff, but I think it should make for an interesting year at in San Diego. But as always, folks, thank you so much for tuning in, and to the edge of the universe and back. Endure and survive. Take care, everybody.